My mom always told me medicine was poison. Mom got stung by a bee 3 weeks ago. Her entire arm swelled up like a balloon and turned bright red. She could barely bend it for 3 days. I begged her to go to the hospital. She looked at me like I'd suggested murder and said, medicine is poison made by corrupt companies trying to keep people sick. When I was 16, I got strep throat so bad I couldn't swallow. Mom handed me elderberry syrup and told me to gargle salt water every hour. My throat felt like razor blades for 2 weeks. I'd lie awake at night from the pain. My teachers kept asking why I wasn't on antibiotics. I had to lie and say I was. Mom banned everything from pharmacies. She had this huge cabinet of essential oils she'd use instead, but none of it ever worked. Every time I complained, she'd pull out a new bottle and say, I'm protecting you from their poison. The thing that scared me most was that her arm from the bee sting had swelled worse than any time before, and I kept wondering what would happen when she got stung again. Our neighbor, Mrs. Flores, was 71 and grew vegetables. Mom trusted her because Mrs. Flores complained about doctors all the time, but Mrs. Flores' daughter was an EMT. One Sunday, Mom sent me over to help with gardening. Mrs. Flores grabbed my wrist and pulled me into her garage. She had a red emergency kit on the shelf. She grabbed an EpiPen and held it up. She said, your mom's bee sting 3 weeks ago should have been treated. Next time will be worse. She made me practice with the EpiPen on an orange until I could do it without hesitating. Something changed after that first Sunday. Mrs. Flores started watching our backyard constantly. She'd be at her fence every time Mom worked in the garden. Bees were everywhere that spring. I'd see them near Mom and my chest would tighten because Mrs. Flores saw them too. She started talking louder when she was outside describing allergic reactions while watering plants. Throat closes in minutes. Lips turn blue. 4 minutes until brain damage. Mom would wave at her and smile because she had no idea Mrs. Flores was teaching me. Every Sunday, Mrs. Flores drilled me harder. She'd time me and tell me I was too slow. She said panic makes your hands shake and I couldn't afford to mess up. The bees got worse as summer came. Then one afternoon, Mom got stung on her hand pulling weeds and her hand swelled to twice its size in minutes. Mrs. Flores saw it happen from her porch. That same afternoon, she pressed an EpiPen into my hand and said, hide this. When it happens again, you won't have time. I asked what if Mom refuses. Mrs. Flores stared at me and said, then you get to watch her choke to death. I carried that EpiPen in my backpack every single day after that. Thursday afternoon, Mom was planting lavender. I was pulling weeds nearby. A bee landed on her neck and stung her before she could brush it away. She pulled out the stinger and laughed while saying, just a little sting. Then her hand went to her throat and her voice sounded thick when she said, my tongue feels fat. Her neck was already red and swelling. She started breathing faster. Every breath made this high whistling sound. She looked at me panicked with her words slurred and said, get the lavender oil right now. This is what Mrs. Flores warned me about. I ran inside and grabbed my backpack with my hands shaking badly. I pulled out the EpiPen and ran back outside to find Mom on her hands and knees with blue lips and both hands on her throat trying to get air. The whistling was almost gone, which meant her throat was closing. I ran over with the EpiPen and Mom's eyes went huge when she saw it. She shook her head and held up one hand to stop me. She tried to crawl away from me with her mouth forming the word no, but no sound came out except this wet clicking from her throat. Her face was gray. I grabbed her leg even though she was too weak to fight. I pressed the EpiPen against her thigh, but my hand slipped, so I repositioned and jabbed it in hard. It clicked and I held it there, counting to 3 before pulling it out. Mom's eyes rolled up and she collapsed onto the grass. I stared at her chest and 5 seconds passed with nothing happening. 10 seconds. I started screaming Mom over and over. Then her mouth opened and she gasped with her chest heaving. Her lips started fading from blue back to normal. She was crying and staring at me. I called 911 with my voice shaking so bad the operator made me repeat everything. I said, my mom went into shock from a bee sting. I gave her an EpiPen a minute ago. The operator said, you did exactly right. You saved her life. Mom came home from the hospital. Her essential oil cabinet was empty and 2 EpiPens sat on the counter.